Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dojo Live this Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. My name is Kim Lantis, and I'm happy to be co-hosting along with America Guerrero today.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you, Jonathan.
Hi, America. Hi, Jan. It's so great to have you on today's show as we discuss the digital renaissance and why the metaverse and why now. But before we talk and jump into the conversation, we'd love to get to know more about you. Yonatan Raz-Fridman, you are the co-founder and CEO of Supersocial. But what's your story? What's your passion? And what's led up to co-founding Supersocial? Please share.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think that the genesis of starting Supersocial is really focused on 10 years of building companies at the intersection of technology and how technology impacts and enables new forms of creativity, of expression, of socialization. And I think throughout the last 10 years of building different companies in the space, a computer company, VR company, I had a front row seat to see how these new technologies like virtual worlds, for example, and mobile phones, and really impacting the way young people socialize, play, express themselves on the internet. And in 2020, it felt like, because of COVID, that there's going to be like an acceleration of how the internet is going to evolve into a 3D space, and where video games and virtual worlds and virtual platforms are going to continue and serve as a focal point for where people connect, socialize, play, have fun, express themselves through their 3D avatars. And at that point of time, it felt like we're going to jump into the wagon and really start shaping what the future that we want to help create when it comes to what virtual worlds can enable young people and businesses alike. And that's when we started Supersocial, to really focus on building next generation games and experiences in virtual worlds that bring people together and create content that really help transform the way people experience the internet, all the way from childhood and beyond.
Wow. And I think that really taps into this word, the Renaissance, right? Obviously, we're not talking about the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries here. It's more in the use of this renewed interest or a revival sense of the word. I mean, digital has maybe gotten a bit boring over the last, maybe not boring, but just so used, right? Over the last maybe 1, 2, 3 decades. And now there's something new happening, right?
100%. Digital is very much, everything is now going to be, we're well in the transformation of moving from analog to digital world. And I think this will continue to, be the case for many years to come.
Perfect. So let's dive into, we touched on who we're mostly interested in or might be interested right now in this 3D world, and that's the younger generation. But you also mentioned companies, and I think that's what's really taking us into the questions that we're hoping to kind of get into today and answer. What is that, America?
Digital renaissance. Why the metaverse and why now? How does the metaverse redefine brand realities and drive customer engagement by providing immersive and interactive platforms that transcend conventional marketing methods? So please share with us the answer of this big question.
I think what's important to understand about the metaverse and this new wave of experiences is that we are talking about a change of human behavior. We're not necessarily talking about new technologies for the sake of it. I think what's really, really clear is that we are seeing a new generation of internet users, essentially anyone below age 18 or anyone that was born after the year 2000, that was essentially born into a world that is mobile driven, where technology is accessible in the palm of our hands 24/7. And not only that, we're also living in a world where expressing ourselves virtually and creating virtually and interacting virtually is ever more immersive. And so, I think for brands, when we look at things like video games, when we look at things like social platforms in 3D, when we look at e-commerce, all of those things are coming together now to connect, to really essentially enable a more immersive experience of the internet than ever before. And I think we need to look at what does that mean for your brand. And I think from our work with incredible brands, what we are seeing is that there is a real desire to understand what are these modalities of interaction mean for brands. There is a real desire to connect and engage with these new communities. There is a real desire to understand what they care about and what they will care about in the future. There is a real desire to nurture these relationships and making sure that your brand is going to continue and be relevant as the world continues to change and evolve the way people see themselves, express themselves, socialize, connect, have fun. And then lastly, also recognizing that really the lines between virtual and physical will continue to be blurred because of these technologies, and no longer seeing at looking at these as isolated spaces. Oh, it's physical or it's virtual, or it's IRL versus URL. Those things I believe are going to really interconnect in the coming years, and that will continue and provide challenges for brands, but also opportunities for reimagining how do you nurture relationship with your communities and your audience.
That's great. I think that there is a delay, right, Kim? Kim, can you hear us? I
It's a
don't
bit
think so.
choppy for me.
Uh,
Yeah, it was a bit choppy for me, but I was able to catch it. Are you hearing me all right?
yes.
Perfect. I want to talk about this conventional marketing methods, and we keep going back to younger people. So in the examples that you're using were basically, people who are 22, 23 years old. It brings me back to the 80s. I think that was the boom of the Saturday morning cartoon, and where marketers and companies were realizing the power behind youth, the power behind kids, right? Generally, kids don't have money to spend, but their parents do, and they're interested in keeping their kids happy, right? And I think that was the big wake up. And now we've got this new boom, right? It's not, is the focus here specifically on these age groups and their power to spend, and then what's going to happen when they have obviously turn into adults and have their own money? Is that's what's happening, or why this generation specifically?
Well, I think this generation is specifically because I think this is the first generation that has been born into these insanely seamless devices that are essentially absorbing so much of our time. I think that's number one. For them, interacting on mobile and using screens to interact and express themselves is very natural. It's as native as it was for us to basically, write a search keyword on Google search in 1999. I think that's one thing. And then I think the second thing is that uh, we're seeing this immersive platform with people who are interacting in 3D environments, if it's video games or other virtual platforms like Fortnite, like Roblox, Minecraft. And I think what essentially is happening is that these platforms are really becoming platforms that are way beyond gaming. They are also social platform where people interact. They purchase things that they use for their avatars and they express themselves. They socialize. They watch concerts. They play games. And so a lot of the things that were not available to us or millennials or older people, of course, for this new generation, anyone that was born essentially after 2000, for them, interacting in 3D avatars and being part of these massive social worlds is super, super natural and native. And I think that just invoke different type of behaviors that will ultimately change and impact the way they interact and consume content, the way they interact and consume branded products, and so on and so forth.
Yes, and also with education. I see, well, with my friends growing in the 2000s, well, they learned English because of this metaverse, because they were able to interact with other people around the world and having conversations with someone who is with people who were not in the same school. So that is amazing. I'm curious, Jonathan, you don't wear glasses. And I know that if you are going to work in home and you're going to be in a screen the whole day, and if you are going to interact in these new spaces, but you need to carry your eyes, right? Are there, I don't know, I always having this conversation with my mom, with people who are older than me, saying that you need to take care of your eyes and some stuff like that, but I'm like, yeah, well, that's part of being in this space. Or what do you think about that?
I mean, there's no way to run away from technology. Technology is all around us
Exactly.
24/7. And, I think there's definitely implication. Technology is probably changing who we are as people, who we are as humans. Who knows, maybe down the line in the distant future, everyone will have glasses because we consume too much content on screens. I think it's kind of I'm pretty deterministic about it. It's happening. And I think every technology revolution, so to speak, throughout history has impacted who we are as people, how we interact, how we conduct ourselves, how we behave with one another, how we create, how we work, how we learn, how we live. I don't think that's going to be any different, and we will continue to evolve. That's what humans do.
Evolving. Exactly, correct. Let's dive into the customer engagement element here. Could you share with us some examples of how Super Social is changing this?
Yes, we have been operating on the Roblox platform, which is the largest platform in the space of virtual worlds in the world. They have almost 70 million daily active users as a platform, and Supersocial is the leading developer and publisher of premium experiences with brands, with IP owners like movie studios, with our own IP. And we definitely work closely with brands like NARS Cosmetics, for example, which is a prestige beauty brand that is really well known around the world, with whom we've worked really closely to build two incredibly successful virtual experiences on the Roblox platform that brought, more than 50 million play visits into the experiences from people all over the world in different ages, different genders. And I think we've learned how, through these experiences with NARS, for example, we really push the boundaries of self-expression and showing young people how they can really express themselves and interact with the brand that they appreciate in platforms like Roblox. And it was hugely successful on all business objectives level. And that's the type of work that we continue to do and really push the boundaries on creativity and socialization and expression on the Roblox platform with the brands that we work with, and also looking at other platforms like Fortnite Creative.
Speaking of the brands, what are the industries that you are seeing that are embracing this technology, that they want to engage with their consumers, with their users in this space? What is the tendency?
Well, I think the most important thing for brands at the moment in these new platforms is to build brand awareness, be relevant to this audience, to these communities, these digital communities, these young people all over the world. The second thing is that they really care about is making sure that they can nurture these relationships and engage the communities with their content, inform why the brand is cool and relevant for them, but do so not in a way of pushing information, but more in a way of building an amazing virtual experience, so to speak, a video game that they can get excited about and want to be engaging with. And then it's also an opportunity to monetize and experiment with virtual goods monetization and seeing and exploring ways of how you drive people from these virtual worlds into your other spaces off platform, like websites and e-commerce and physical stores and so on and so forth. And so these are typically the priorities and the objectives that brands are looking to accomplish. And at Super Social, we've been really working closely with some of the most incredible brands around the world to help them reach those goals in the immediate term.
I see. I think that we have Kim back. Can you hear us, Kim?
I was sorry. I can. I thank you. I was able to catch enough with my in and out to know kind of where we're at. In terms of brands and promoting their brand within the metaverse in immersive ways, is there also ways, or are they looking to be able to extract that into the real world? I don't know. Let's say you can create your own Nike tennis shoe in Roblox, and then I can, pay money to get that shoe fabricated.
I think it's really early still. I think a lot of the behavior happens virtually. And And I think that we're definitely going to see more around the interaction with the physical world. Uh, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interesting things that are going to happen that we are excited about enabling and building. And so I do believe that there are going to be even more seamless evolution of how this virtual world connects seamlessly with IRL. But I think we're really at the early stages, but we're going to see things that really blur the line between physical and virtual. And I think this is where a lot of really the exciting opportunities for brands are.
Something that I really loved about the
Mm-hmm.
metaverse, I remember that we had a show, I think a year ago, and it is a company that develop video games. So their users, this person shared that his grandfather used this video game to play with his friends. Balls. Is that the name in
Mm-hmm.
English? Boliche. So these kind of people,
Yeah,
they are
bowling.
not bowling. They are not able to carry those heavy balls, and in this game, it is possible for them to play and hang out and have a social life. So there is this what is the name? Intuitive? No, 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 no. Accessible. There is this accessible
Interactive,
component.
accessible.
Exactly. That really fascinates me. How? What do you think? What is? How accessible is now the metaverse? Because every year is changing. Or how do you see that is changing?
Well, I think that the metaverse is not really here yet in its full form. I think really at the moment it's mostly these virtual worlds that are taking place and are hosted inside what many would consider gaming platforms. And I think to a large extent, the metaverse at the moment is really populated by young people for a very simple reason, because that's how all new mediums start. When Facebook became popular, it was really populated by teenagers and young adults. It wasn't something that 50, 70-year-old like now are using. So there is a certain growth and evolution of new technologies and new modalities of interaction. And I think metaverse platforms and virtual worlds at the moment, it's at the very early stage, which makes it much more relevant to young people than to anyone else. And I think that's what you're seeing now. So it's probably not intuitive and simple at the moment to 50, 60, 70-year-old. And probably I don't expect it to be until maybe 5, 10, 15 years
Mm-hmm.
from now.
I see.
I like that. But I think on this idea of accessibility and how it works with brands, one of the things that I have in mind, or my understanding is one of the beauties of the metaverse is this ability to in some ways be an equalizer, right? What might not be able to be a reality or in real life, IRL, can be in the metaverse, right? So what does it look like in terms of brands? Is there an equalizer here? Can anyone, small brands, big brands, benefit from this space and take advantage of it? Or is this a space where only the big dogs are able to play?
No, I think we're so early in the journey of what the metaverse could become that I think there are going to be many new entrants into the space. I'm sure big technology companies will play a role, but I don't think the fact that big technology companies are big guarantee that they're going to be the winners of this space and the winners of the category. Um, so I expect that there's going to be a lot of innovation and disruption in the next 5 to 10 years that will really help shape what the metaverse becomes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as I said, I think it's really, really early days, and it's very difficult to envision what we're going to happen in 10 years' time. But I believe we're going to see some serious transformations in the space.
Part of this
Perfect. We're kind of
transformation.
coming to the final few minutes. Sorry, go ahead.
Don't worry, go ahead. I
There
know
is a
that there is
delay.
a delay.
I was just saying, we've only got about 2-3 minutes left of today's show. Oh, it's going to be a bit shorter than our usual half hour here. And I was just wondering maybe your words of advice, your words of wisdom for those brands that are looking to tap into this space and how they can, do their marketing in this new conventional way that eventually is going to be the norm. What might your advice be? Some how-tos.
Well, I think first and foremost, I think you only learn by doing. So sitting around and reading article or listening to podcasts, I think it's fine. That's like basic stuff. I think really deciding to take action, experiment, figure out what the metaverse could mean for your brand by talking to thought leaders and companies that are operating in the space. I'm always happy to take an email or a call with anyone who wants to talk to me about the metaverse and what it could mean for their brands. But really is learning by doing and making a decision to take action and experiment and decide what level of investment you're willing to make for your brand to experiment and understand what these virtual world and these audiences mean for you, for your brand, for your business, in order for that to inform a bigger strategy and a bigger investment over the next 3 to 5 years. And really choose carefully the people you're listening to and the people you choose to collaborate with as partners.
Thank you. I think that was some amazing words of advice. I apologize again for the touch and go, my participation here on today's show. But Jan, it was a pleasure to learn from you, to learn about Supersocial, and to see just new use cases and new ways in which the metaverse is growing and how we're able to utilize it, right, beyond entertainment. I think it's been wonderful. Stick around for just a minute as we go off air. But before we do, we'd like to remind our viewers that we have our recap show coming up on Monday, where we'll talk about Jan's show as well as yesterday's show and introduce what we've got coming up next week. Until then, stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you again here.